Welcome to this daily PBJ devotional. Read 1 Samuel 20 and Lamentations 5 today. This devotional is about 1 Samuel 20. Then David fled from Naioth in Ramah. He came to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What is my iniquity? How have I sinned against your father that he wants to take my life?" "Far from it," Jonathan replied. "You will not die. Indeed, my father does nothing, great or small, without telling me. So why would he hide this matter from me? This cannot be true." But David again vowed, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes." And he has said, "Jonathan must not know of this, or he will be grieved. As surely as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, there is but a step between me and death." Then Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you desire, I will do for you." So David told him, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon, and I am supposed to dine with the king. Instead, let me go and hide in the field until the third evening from now. If your father misses me at all, tell him, David urgently requested my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because there is an annual sacrifice for his whole clan. If he says good, then your servant is safe. But if he is enraged, you will know he has evil intentions. Therefore deal faithfully with your servant. For you have brought me into a covenant with you before the Lord. If there is iniquity in me, then kill me yourself. Why should you bring me to your father?" "Never," Jonathan replied. "If I ever found out that my father had evil intentions against you, would I not tell you?" Then David asked Jonathan, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" "Come," he replied, "let us go out to the field." So the two of them went out into the field. And Jonathan said, "By the Lord, the God of Israel, I will sound out my father by this time tomorrow, or the next day. If he is favorable toward you, will I not send for you and tell you? But if my father intends to bring evil on you, then may the Lord punish me, and ever so severely, if I do not tell you and send you on your way in safety. May the Lord be with you, just as he has been with my father. And as long as I live, treat me with the Lord's loving devotion, that I may not die. And do not ever cut off your loving devotion from my household, not even when the Lord cuts off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord hold David's enemies accountable." And Jonathan had David reaffirm his vow out of love for him, for Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. Then Jonathan said to David, "Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed if your seat is empty. When you have stayed 3 days, hurry down to the place you hid on the day this trouble began, and remain beside the stone, Ezel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as if I were aiming at a target. Then I will send a boy and say, 'Go, find the arrows.' Now, if I expressly say to him, 'Look, the arrows are on this side of you, bring them,' then come, because as surely as the Lord lives, it is safe for you, and there is no danger. But if I say to the young man, 'Look, the arrows are beyond you,' then you must go, for the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter you and I have discussed, the Lord is a witness between you and me forever." So David hid in the field, and when the new moon had come, the king sat down to eat. He sat in his usual place by the wall, opposite Jonathan and beside Abner. But David's place was empty. Saul said nothing that day because he thought, "Something has happened to David to make him ceremonially unclean. Surely he is unclean." But on the day after the new moon, the second day, David's place was still empty, and Saul asked his son Jonathan, "Why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal either yesterday or today?" Jonathan answered, "David urgently requested my permission to go to Bethlehem, saying, Please let me go, because our clan is holding a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has told me to be there. So now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please let me go and see my brothers." That is why he did not come to the king's table. Then Saul's anger burned against Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the disgrace of the mother who bore you? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingship shall be established. Now send for him and bring him to me, for he must surely die." "Why must he be put to death?" Jonathan replied. "What has he done?" Then Saul hurled his spear at Jonathan to kill him. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger and did not eat any food that second day of the month, for he was grieved by his father's shameful treatment of David. In the morning, Jonathan went out to the field for the appointment with David, and a small boy was with him. He said to the boy, "Run and find the arrows I shoot." And as the boy ran, Jonathan shot an arrow beyond him. When the boy reached the place where Jonathan's arrow had fallen, Jonathan called to him, "Isn't the arrow beyond you?" Then Jonathan cried out, "Hurry, make haste, do not delay." So the boy picked up the arrow and returned to his master. But the boy did not know anything. Only Jonathan and David knew the arrangement. Then Jonathan gave his equipment to the boy and said, "Go, take it back to the city." When the young man had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone, fell face down, and bowed 3 times. Then he and Jonathan kissed each other and wept together, though David wept more. And Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace. For the 2 of us have sworn in the name of the Lord, saying, 'May the Lord be a witness between you and me, and between your descendants and mine forever.'" Then David got up and departed, and Jonathan went back into the city. This is God's word. Jonathan believed his father when Saul told him that David would not be put to death, as we read yesterday in chapter 19, verse 6. We do not know how much time has passed between Saul's assurances in chapter 19, verse 6, and the rest of the events of chapter 19, but we do know that Saul did not keep his commitment to Jonathan to stop hunting David. According to today's reading in chapter 20, verse 2, Jonathan was unaware of Saul's attempts on David's life in chapter 19 that followed Jonathan's conversations with Saul in chapter 19, verses 1 through 6. Here in chapter 20, David concocted a plan to reveal to Jonathan whether Saul was intent on killing David still, or if Saul would be faithful to his word to Jonathan. Although David was supposed to join Saul for a new moon feast, according to verse 5a, David hid instead, according to verse 5b. When Saul asked Jonathan where David was, Jonathan was instructed to lie and tell Saul that David was attending a family ritual instead. We saw that in verses 6 and 7. Both David and Jonathan expected Saul's response to this ruse to reveal definitively whether Saul was intent on killing David or not. We saw that in verses 8 through 18. Note that the text is clear. Jonathan's answer to Saul was a lie. There was no sacrifice for Jesse's family. Instead, David was hiding in a field, according to verse 5b and verse 24a. As good as their motives were, Jonathan and David concocted a plan that required Jonathan to lie. So, what do we make of a passage like this? First of all, the Bible commands us to speak truthfully. You can see Ephesians 4:25 from one of many passages that teach us this. God is truth, and as his people, we should be committed to truth as well. Most of our lies are designed to benefit us in some other unrighteous way. We tell lies to manipulate someone else into doing what we want them to do, or we lie to cover up something else that we've already done that is evil. Or we lie to avoid hurting someone else's feelings. That last one is especially insidious because we think we're doing it for them to avoid hurting their feelings. But the truth is that we tell those little white lies not for them, but for us, to get that person to like us or keep them liking us. Jonathan and David lied here to protect David's life. And this is also why Rahab lied when she was protecting the spies back in the book of Joshua. Jeremiah also lied, as we saw just a few weeks ago, when his life was on the line. And these are the only instances in Scripture where someone lied and was not condemned or punished for it. The lie was told to prevent an even greater sin, namely the unrighteous taking of human life. These lies were told to prevent a greater evil, not to cover up an evil or to manipulate someone to doing evil for personal advantage. And they weren't designed to get approval from someone in an unrighteous way. That's what makes them different than most of the lies we tell. It would have been better and wiser if Jonathan and David could have devised a test of Saul's intent without lying. It would have been better because there could have been severe consequences for both of them if their lies were discovered. You don't lie to the king and just get away with it easily. So lying was not the best course of action in this instance. But since their lie was designed to protect David's life, God was merciful to them and, I believe, did not count this as a sin against them. Would it ever be appropriate for us to lie? Based on this passage, the only instance where I believe it would be justifiable to lie is if you or I lied to save someone's life, either our own or someone else's. If a man with murderous intent tries to get you to expose a victim, and a lie to save that person's life is the only way to save that person's life, then passages like this one lead me to believe that God will not condemn you for such a lie. Any other reason for lying, as far as I can tell, is sin. But to protect human life seems to be the kind of lie that God does not punish his people for. So, I'm encouraging you to be truthful people as God commands us to be. But we need to understand that saving life is more important than speaking the truth in a situation where someone has an evil intent. Hopefully you won't have to apply this and lie to save someone else's life. But it's helpful to know the distinction between the two. So consider this today, and I'll see you next time. May God bless you. Hope you have a great day today.